Welcome to the Department of Financial Services, Division of Workers' Compensation's video training regarding exemption eligibility and requirements. During this video, we will define an exemption, discuss eligibility requirements, and provide general exemption information. There are several ways that an employer can secure workers' comp coverage that meets the compliance requirements in Florida. This video focuses on obtaining an exemption. For more information on obtaining a workers' compensation policy, contact a licensed insurance agent. The purpose of obtaining an exemption is for an officer of a corporation or a member of a limited liability company to exclude himself from the workers' compensation laws. Upon issuance of an exemption, the officer or member is no longer an employee of the business and may not recover workers' compensation benefits. In order to be exempt, an employer must submit an application to the Division of Workers' Compensation by electronically filing an application. So, what are the eligibility requirements? In order to obtain an exemption, the applicant must meet some basic requirements. First, the corporation or LLC must be registered and active with the Division of Corporations, also known as SunBiz. Second, the applicant must have a driver's license from any state or a Florida ID card. Third, the applicant cannot be associated with an active stop work order or working in violation case with the division. Before beginning the process of completing an application, the individual should determine whether their scope of business is construction or non-construction. To determine the industry, the employer may contact the National Council on Compensation Insurance. Based on the industry selection, the following criteria also apply to an applicant. For a non-construction LLC, an applicant must attest to a minimum 10% ownership of the LLC, and the LLC therefore cannot have more than 10 exempt members. For a non-construction corporation, the applicant must be listed as an officer of a corporation on the Division of Corporations website. There is no limit to the number of exempt officers. In the construction industry, all applicants must attest to a minimum 10% ownership of the business, and no more than 3 officers or members may elect to be exempt from the company or group of associated companies. In construction, there is also a $50 application fee that is required plus any related service fees. If the applicant is associated with an insufficient payment, that individual will not be eligible to receive their exemption. Officers of corporations must be listed on the Division of Corporation filing for the business. The Division of Workers' Compensation Bureau of Compliance Exemption Team reviews and approves exemption applications. Statutorily, the Division has 30 days to process, return, or deny applications. If the applicant meets all exemption eligibility criteria, a certificate of election to be exempt from workers' compensation law is issued. If an exemption application is incorrect, or if the division needs additional information to determine whether or not the applicant meets criteria to be approved, the exemption application will be returned to the applicant. If the applicant does not meet the exemption eligibility requirements, the division will deny the application. Reasons for denial include: 1. The officer is not listed with the Division of Corporations. 2. The corporation or limited liability company is inactive or not registered with the Division of Corporations. 3. The corporation or limited liability company is in the construction industry and there are already 3 officers with active exemptions. 4. The applicant is affiliated with an active stop work order or working in violation of the stop work order. 5. The limited liability company has 10 members with exemptions. Or 6. The applicant is affiliated with an insufficient fund. Exemptions issued after January 1, 2013 are valid for a 2-year period. At least 60 days before the expiration date of an exemption, the division will send notice of the expiration date to the certificate holder at the address on the certificate or to the email address on file. An exemption certificate is issued to an individual officer or member. An exemption is non-transferable to either another officer or an employee. An application is required for each officer or member seeking exemption. The exemption is for an individual person who is an officer of a specific corporation and applies only to the trade as listed on the exemption form. An exemption is also business specific, meaning if an officer or a member wishes to be exempt from multiple entities, a separate application must be filed for each business. Exemptions are valid for a period of 2 years, at which point they must be renewed with the division, and the effective and expiration dates of the exemption are listed on the exemption certificate. Now, let's take a moment to review. Does the workers' compensation exemption provide insurance coverage for the exemption member? No. How many people does an exemption exempt? 1. How many exemptions can a construction company obtain? 3. Once an exemption application is submitted, the applicant has an active exemption. False. When does an exemption expire once it's approved? In 2 years. A driver's license from any state or a Florida ID card are acceptable for my application process. True. If you have any questions or concerns regarding your exemption or application, please do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you for viewing the Division of Workers' Compensation's module on exemption eligibility and requirements.